Morning, dear students. Welcome to another session of microwave and antenna. So, in previous session, we discussed regarding the klystron and interelectrode capacitances in vacuum tube, then klystron, its mechanism and modes of oscillations, and we solved one of the problems, that is example 9.1, in which we had discussed regarding few points. That is, in order to estimate PRF max, that is the RF power which is being given by the cavity, it can be estimated using this equation, or we can refer to this equation and obtain the overall result. So in this, VR was not given. That is, repeller voltage is not specified. You have the frequency of operation, you have the beam voltage, repeller space information, what is the mode of operation, and what is the beam current. So these all things were provided, but repeller voltage was not given. So if you want to use this equation, right, then what you have to do is you have to estimate that using this equation. You can estimate using this equation, or a simplified version is given over there. That is, all the standard values are substituted and obtained. So you can use this equation or this equation. So based on that, you will be able to obtain what is the magnitude of the repeller voltage. Once you obtain the magnitude of the repeller voltage, what you have to do is you have to substitute that magnitude value in this equation, and then you'll be able to obtain what is the RF power which is delivered to the cavity. So this is the problem what we had solved. So we got around 1.3665 watts. So next problem, what we'll be looking out is, it is based on this equation. It is based on this. So here, what information is being provided in the problem is, a reflex klystron is operated at 5 gigahertz. The operating frequency is around 5 gigahertz. A DC beam voltage, that is V naught, DC beam voltage, which is identified as V naught, is given as 350 volt. So we have DC beam voltage, which is 350 volt. Repeller spacing, that is length of the space between the repeller plate and the cavity, is around this is the operating frequency, 5 gigahertz. This is the beam voltage, and this is the length of the repeller space, and the mode of operation is n, that is n is equal to 3 by 4. So this one, when I take it, it will be n plus 3 by 4. In this, value of n is 3, that is this one. So it is 3 plus 3 by 4, which is equal to 3.75. So this is the value of capital N. Calculate the bandwidth. Calculate the bandwidth provided the delta variation in the repeller voltage is given as 1 volt. So here, what he is asking you to estimate the bandwidth. So bandwidth is nothing but difference between the two frequencies what you are considering. That is the difference between the half power points. So in terms of frequencies, when you estimate, it will be F1 difference F2. That we note as delta F. That we note as delta F. So he has given delta F, and he has given delta VR. He is asking to identify what is this bandwidth. So it is nothing but this information. So in order to estimate that, we will be making use of this information. So here you can see that it is say it is magnitude. It is magnitude. this is nothing but I can represent it as delta VR by delta VF, because dVR and dVF are nothing but the delta variations. For small amount of variation in the frequency, what is the variation which is happening in the repeller voltage? That is what this differentiation means. So we can represent it as delta VR divided by delta F. Now, as per this equation, I have to identify delta F value. So if you just see length of the repeller space is known, then we know what is the value of DC beam voltage. We know what is the value of capital N. So you can utilize this equation directly and obtain what is delta VR by delta F. So that is what they have done. So this is given by 15 by 4, which will be equated to 3.75. So delta VR, this the same equation what we have specified. This is nothing but length is in meters. So here nothing is specified. So it is considered in meters. L is in meters. So convert this 0.5 centimeter, which will be equal to 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 2 meters. So length in meters. So this equation itself, right, is altered. So if I take delta F this side, what I'll be getting delta VR into delta F into all this parameter. I want to know what is delta F. So delta F, when you take it on the other side and equate, you will be getting this value. So this is the bandwidth of the reflex klystron which is specified over here, which gives you around 5.9948 megahertz, which is 5.948 megahertz. So moving ahead, next one we have introduction to microwaves. So up till now, we were basically discussing regarding one of the microwave device. Actually, we should have started with this, but as per discussion, we went on wherein we discussed a klystron amplifier, and then that is single cavity klystron amplifier, and then we discussed regarding few problems. So moving ahead in this part again, we'll discuss regarding some of the concepts related to microwaves. So what is the frequency range of the microwaves? It is in the generally in the range of 1 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz. Remember, giga is 10 raised to 9. Mega is specified as 10 raised to 6. So I hope you remember these things. So frequency range of microwaves is generally given in the range of 1 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz. So if you reach say around 300 gigahertz, generally we come across what is called as millimeter waves. And if you go above 300 gigahertz, right, we come across what is called as sub-millimeter waves. So that is, this is how it is specified. In some of the books, what they specify is that is 1 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz. So this is how they specify. So in this case, the wavelength will be in the range of 30 centimeter to around 1 millimeter. So you can just see how short the wavelength will be. Now, for example, if you consider, say, if frequency is 1 kilohertz, which is not in the megahertz range, you have delta, you have lambda, which is given by C by F. So here what it will be, 3 into 10 raised to 8 meters per second divided by 1 into 10 raised to 3. So how much it will be? 3 into 10 raised to 5 meters. So if I convert it into kilometers, how much it will be? It will be 3 into 10 raised to 2 kilometers. So which is around how much? 3000 kilometers, which is in the range of 3000. So for non-microwave frequencies, that is frequencies which are less than the microwave frequency range, right? We can see that what is the wavelength. The wavelength, say for 1 kilohertz itself, you are getting how much? 3000, 300, sorry, it is 300. It is around 300 kilometers. So which is, imagine how large the wavelength will be in such cases. But if you go for in terms of gigahertz, say if f is 1 gigahertz, then what you have, lambda is given by 3 into 10 raised to 8 divided by 1 into 10 raised to 9. So which is actually 3 into 10 raised to minus 1. 3 into 10 raised to minus 1. So which is nothing but 0.3 meters. But when you specify, it is nothing but 30 centimeter. So where is 30 centimeter and where is 300 kilometer? So it is because of these factors, right? If you just see the lambda for this one is 300 kilometers, whereas the lambda for one of the frequencies is 30 centimeters. If I keep on increasing the frequency, what happens is the wavelength keeps on decreasing. If frequency keeps on increasing, lambda keeps on decreasing. So it becomes less and less, and it might reach, say, millimeter if you go for very high range. So in that case, what happens? So this is where the concepts of distributed circuit theory and lumped circuit theory comes into play. So in your network theory, right? Your network theory or network analysis, you have studied regarding KVL, KCL, and how they are applied. So what happens is, if you just see, generally when you're rigging up the circuit or when you're making some connections, you cannot have a wire which is connected, which is as long as 300 kilometers. You will be having some disconnections, then you will be continuing. So here you cannot have a continuous connection of 300 kilometers. So here what happens is, the length of this, say, transmission line, we call it as transmission line. So in the length of the transmission line is much lesser than lambda. So if this is the length of one transmission line, if I want to continue, then I have to have some interconnectors and then connect, then go ahead. So here what happens is, length of the transmission line is much lesser than lambda. Here you can see that lambda value for 1 kilohertz, lambda value for 1 kilohertz is how much? 300 kilometers. So if you just look at the length, this thing, it might be in centimeters, meters. So in that way, the connections will be present. So if you just observe that length, when you compare it with the wavelength, the length is very much smaller. Say if it is 1 meter, where is 1 meter? 1 meter is very much smaller as compared to, say, the 300 kilometers what we have obtained. So at lower frequency, what happens? Since the length is much less than the lambda, that is the wavelength, losses are assumed to be very less, or we specify that the resistance along the path is 0 and the inductance across the path is 0. Conductance across the lines is 0. So conductance comes when it is in parallel, resistance when it is in series. So here you can observe what is happening in this case. So when frequency is around 1 kilohertz, lambda is 300 kilometers. Therefore, if you just consider the length to be 1 meter, 1 meter is very much smaller compared to 300 kilometers. Therefore, what happens is, you can apply the lumped network theory concepts. You can apply it directly. Lumped network theory, what you have done, right? In that, you are assuming that those are the lumped networks. Those are the lumped networks. So we consider the network to be a lumped network and we estimate the parameters. But when we come to this one, right, this is 30 centimeter. So, and when you consider it to 1 meter, right, 1 meter is, we classify it as a very much higher than 30 centimeter. So length is very much greater than 30 centimeter. So when we go to microwave frequency range, right, what happens is lambda decreases and it turns out to be, say, in 30 centimeter to 1 millimeter. And when we compare it with the transmission lines which are helping us to take the microwave energy from one point to the other point. So here what happens is, we cannot have just 30 centimeters and make the connection. That will be again a tedious process and you will be investing a lot of things over there. So you might take 1 meter estimation and 1 meter of transmission line and make connections with those 1 meters. So if you just consider that 1 meter is very much higher compared to 30 centimeter. So at microwave frequencies, what happens is the length of the transmission line plays an important role. So in this one, what happens is I directly cannot apply the lumped network theory. I cannot apply those concepts. But if I can utilize them by doing what? By assuming that I have 1 meter this thing, I divide this transmission line into multiple things. So what I'm doing is I am assuming that at this point I can apply the lumped network concept. At this point I can apply the lumped network concept and so on. So what I'm doing is I'm considering this as a distributed network. I'm considering this as a distributed network. So this is where the concepts of distributed network theory comes into play, and then we can apply the KVL KCL for that distributed network and then obtain what is the overall parameters of the network. So remember, when we are dealing with the microwaves, right, we are dealing with the wavelengths which are very much lesser than which are very much greater than the the length of the transmission lines, which are much greater than the wavelength. So that is one point what you have to remember when you're dealing with microwaves. And when we are dealing with microwaves, right, we have to recollect the electromagnetic theory. That is your field theory or electromagnetic theory subject, what you have studied, right? We have to look out for those estimations. So in that, Maxwell's equations plays a majority of the role. So you'll be utilizing those, and then you'll be identifying few of the parameters. So here we have some of the microwave bands, which is given by the IEEE. So here, if we look, wavelength is in terms of say 1 meter. If we just consider, say if I go from gigahertz, right, say 3 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz, you can see that it is from in the range of 10 centimeter to around 1 millimeter. Now here, if I go below, right, if I go say 300 megahertz and this one, these are the wavelengths what we have specified. So this is as per the IEEE specification what they have provided. So if I just consider this one, let's say in 300 gigahertz, the frequency range, so which is nothing but the bandwidth which is present in this case, it will be in the range of 110 to 170 gigahertz. So frequency is 300, frequency is in 300, but the bandwidth will be ranging from 110 to 170 gigahertz. So 370 plus 110 or minus 110 to plus 170. So that is what you can specify. That is a bandwidth. So it is like this one. These are the frequency ranges. You're specifying that it is in the range of, and difference between these two, it will be ranging in that point. So I'll be able to generate microwave frequencies in that. So this range of frequencies, this frequency range will be named by different bands. So every now and then you might come across these terms in which which band the microwave device is working. So if it is working in the 110 to 170 gigahertz range, it is in the D band. Now in a lab, right, we make use of, in our lab we have 8 to 10 gigahertz. So 8 to 12 gigahertz falls in the X band. And we have another microwave source which operates in the range of 2 to 3 gigahertz. So if it is in the range of 2 to 4, right, it falls in the S band. So these two we have in a lab presently. So similarly, when we look at the other frequencies, right, other frequency range, we can observe that different band names are provided. U band, Ka band, Ku band. So depending on these things, the band designation is given. Now, prior to this, even US military had provided some frequency range, and they had given some name to that. So there were two, this thing, one was the old specification and one was the new specification. So in old specification, they had given some bands such as P, L, S, C band, X band, K band. So, and there were some frequency ranges which are provided for these. These frequency ranges, say for P band, it was in the range of 0.25 gigahertz to 0.39 gigahertz, and K band, if I just took, it was in the range of 10.9 gigahertz to 36 gigahertz. So these are the things in the old this thing. So, but when you look at the new specification, which was given by the US military this thing, that is, they had their bands specified. So they had given in A band, B band, so on up to M, they had specified. For example, A band was in the frequency range of zero point 0.1 to 0.25 gigahertz, and M was in the range of 60 to 100 gigahertz. So these were the new specifications what they had given. So, but universally, what they do is they refer to IEEE standards. So the IEEE bands are being specified on the devices. This is universally what they look out for. And remember, if you go in the range of which is much greater than 300 gigahertz, we come across the concepts of sub-millimeter waves. That is what I had specified. Sub-millimeter waves. And if you are operating near to 300 gigahertz, we get what we term as millimeter waves. So these are just a few specifications which are provided. Then what are the different microwave devices? So in say your previous semesters, right, you had come across with the different devices like diode, then transistors, which were operating in the range of kilohertz. Now, if I have to utilize such kind of devices, then I have to make some modifications with those. So directly I cannot utilize those in the operations of the microwave. I have to say engineer them such that they'll be able to operate in the gigahertz range, that is in the microwave range. So there are few of the microwave devices which are classified as active and passive. So here we have two things. One is solid state devices, and the other is the vacuum tubes. So solid state devices, say your transistor is a solid state device, then your diode is a solid state device. It is in that case, what you do is you use a material, you use a substrate. On that substrate, you build what is required. So you build what is required. So you have a, say, a P substrate, then a N substrate, you do etching on this, then you do all the operations which is required, and then you build the entire stuff. So solid state devices refers to that. And in vacuum tubes, right, you saw in Klystron, right, you had a tube in which you had a cavity, you had electron beam, you had a repeller voltage, beam current. So many steps. So those are vacuum tube related concepts. So in which you had klystrons which are used for amplification and klystrons which are used for oscillation. So single cavity was basically used for oscillations, and when you go for multi-cavity klystron, right, you use it in the form of amplifiers. Then you have something called as TWT, which is traveling wave tubes, which is also a concept of vacuum tubes, which generates in which gives oscillations in the range of microwave. Then you have the latest one, that is magneton, which is again used for microwave signal generations. So with slight different methods of working. So these are the vacuum tube variations of the microwave devices. So then in passive devices, what we have? So you have you might have a attenuator, you might have a phase shifter, resonator, then antennas. So these all things are classified as passive microwave devices. Now next we have solid state devices which are used at RF and the microwave uh, frequencies. So we have transistors which will be utilized in the RF and the microwave. Generally at RF, right, we make use of the transistors. Then when we go for different devices, right, there is a concept of transferred electron. So when you go say in depth a little bit later, right, so you'll be coming up with these concepts: what is meant by transferred electron, what is meant by avalanche transit time. So these all things. So here you have gun diode which falls under this. Then diodes which operate on this avalanche transit time are Barrett, impact, trapad diode, then parametric devices. So these are just a few to name around. You have pin diode, you have gun diode. So these all devices are also present. So which are basically utilized at microwave frequencies. So these are a few microwave devices and which are specified over there. So these are all solid state devices. These are all solid state devices. So what are the applications of the microwaves? So this every now and then you are using these microwaves. You have a cellular phone, you are using it. So it operates on the microwave frequency. So you want to communicate with the satellite, you have to go for high frequency range. You cannot go for low frequency. So communication with respect to satellite, it has to be done with microwave signals. So your wireless or the mobile communication. Then you look out for radar applications. Say you want to identify at what speed a certain vehicle is approaching. So in order to estimate that, you can use the concept of Doppler radar over here and try to see what is the speed of the vehicle. So you are utilizing microwaves in such cases, and you want to have air traffic control, navigation system, then space vehicles. So even for remote sensing, so all these things you can go ahead with the radar applications. And in military applications, you have to go for say if you want to launch a weapon or a guided missile. So if you have to do that, it has to be given the communication aspect. So in order to do that, you go ahead with the guided guidance of weapons, which is done using the radar operations, which makes use of the microwave signals. So these are just a few to name around. Then if you come down to industrial and biomedical, you use it for multiple things. That is, if you want to go for waste treatment, you can go ahead with these things. If you want to go for imaging using the microwave frequencies, you can do the imaging. Say many medical images are taken at those frequency ranges, so which are not visible, or you cannot identify those at low frequency ranges. So these are just a few things to name around. Then in heating in your household, it is nothing but the microwave oven what you are using. Then industry, you use it say for rubber heating, wherein galvanization process, or food processing industries, wherein you want to remove the moisture from the food and keep and store it for a long time. So in that case, instead of keeping drying it in the heat of the sun, what you do is you pass it through microwave, so that microwave say removes the moisture which is present in that food item. So it can be utilized for these things. So these are just a few applications to name around. So this is all for this part. So in coming fourth session, we'll be discussing regarding some of the other concepts which are related to microwave transmission lines. So before moving out of the session, I wanted to discuss another one point, that is, what does a microwave system consists of? So that I have missed out. So you have microwave system. So what does it consist of? So it will be having, so in general, if I just specify how it turns around. So here you might have a waveguide. So to which you might have a microwave source, to which you will be providing a microwave source. Then you might have different microwave devices which are present. So we specify this as the waveguide. Then you might have attenuator present in this microwave system. Then you might have some antenna which is present, so which helps in transmission of this microwave signal. So that is, we are speaking of microwave system in terms of transmitter and the receiver. So if I consider it for communication, what all things might be present in a microwave system? You should have a microwave source, then you should have a waveguide, which helps the microwave to traverse through and reach at the other end. Then in between, if attenuator is required, you can have a attenuator, phase shifter, or any other part is required, you can deal with that. Then at the other end, if I want to transmit this signal, right, then I should have an antenna. So at the other end, suppose I want to receive this, then I'll be having a receiving antenna. So this is a transmitting antenna. Here I'll be having a receiving antenna. So at the receiving antenna, you should have the antenna, and then you should have a waveguide. Then you should have a waveguide and a termination to the waveguide. And if you want, you can have a microwave detector. Microwave detector. So this is what you can have in an entire microwave. You can have in an entire microwave system. So this is in short what we are looking out. So in this is all for today's session. In coming fourth session, we'll be discussing regarding microwave transmission lines. So before proceeding, few concepts are there. We'll discuss with that, and then we'll move ahead with the microwave transmission lines. Okay, thank you.